Okay, so welcome back, everybody. This is the Slap in VR. Once again, joining me is Johnny, and then today we are just going to do a quick recap on everything that's happened over the past 2, 3 weeks now,
Yeah.
since that wonderful, wonderful epic down in San Diego. What a thrilling game that was!
Yeah. Thrilling and rainy and wet and cold, but it was fun. It's a good game.
So coming into that game, we talked a little bit about it beforehand, but the main thing, the question going into it was how was the Boise State offense going to respond going into the game with a backup quarterback?
Mhm.
We now know that their plan was basically to not trust him at all and only let him barely throw passes until we got to the fourth quarter. But I wanted to ask you, since you had the sky high vantage points, basically
Mhm.
everything looking like Madden to you down there,
Yeah.
what were you seeing from your perspective? Like, did it kind of seem like they just really didn't trust him, or maybe the reads weren't there, or what did you see from your vantage point?
I don't know. The reads maybe weren't there. The weather kind of messed things up, and I think it made both teams just sort of commit to the run. Um, which I think, I mean, what was it at halftime? Because now it was a few weeks ago when we met up at halftime, and Denegal was like three completions or three attempts for like -5 yards or something like that, like something crazy. So even in that in there, that's SDSU starting quarterback. So I don't know if it was trust. That may have played a factor into it. I mean, you see it at all levels of football where these backups come in and they sort of, really plane things down and they don't want to they pretty much just want him to come in and manage the game. Um, but I think that the weather, the footing, and then with the ball being wet in the rain, I think that just those reads weren't there, and I don't think either team wanted to really risk it. And in a game where like one turnover could really make the difference in momentum, if you give it up to them in your territory and then they're able to capitalize off of it, uh, neither team wanted to do that. Denegal, I think, finished the night with like something crazy, like 17 passing yards too. So it was it was a game where I don't think I think either team was just like, okay, we have running backs, we have the ability to just hang on to the ball, try and control the clock, and not turn it over, and we're just gonna run through this rain and see what happens. But yeah, it was interesting.
Well, not only the rain, but do you think the strangeness of the weather had a factor into it? Because remember, going into the game, it was not clear, but it was just very, very light, even just the tiniest
Yeah,
sprinkles going in, and then you would, change quarters or something, and then all of a sudden it's just a major downpour.
yeah,
Do you think that kind of strangeness in the weather going in and out also kind of affected the offenses? To where it's like maybe they came in with the game plan of like, okay, we're just gonna run the ball, but like, oh, now it's clear all of a sudden. Maybe we should start
yeah.
passing and then immediately have to abandon that concept.
Yeah. No, that's a good point because I could definitely see, like you're saying, like in the beginning of the game, it wasn't, it was like sprinkling, like you're saying, it was nice. It wasn't too bad from nice compared to what we expected. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That definitely could because even if you go into the game with the game plan, prepping for the week, thinking, okay, we're gonna run, 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 then it's kind of clear, and you're sort of thinking like, man, it's like almost enticing, like maybe we throw the ball a little bit, but then if you kind of get in, you don't want to throw off your rhythm. I would expect, you know what I mean? So like if you go in, think you're gonna run, you start out running, and then it clears up, and you're like, let's kind of throw it a little bit. And then it pours again, and then you go back to the run. Could that kind of throw off the rhythm of your offense and things like that? So, yeah, that could have definitely played a factor. And we saw both teams every once in a while kind of test it to see. It was a lot of screens and short passes and things like that. But yeah, that the inconsistency of the weather probably made it tough to get into a rhythm um, if you wanted to try and pass it.
And rhythm is a good word to use because it kind of seemed like for the most part, both offenses couldn't really get into the rhythm even in the running game because one thing that I noticed and that I was reading online after the game was that for some reason Boise State ended up using Dylan Riley as more of a between the tackles type of runner and more of his specialties on the outside. But it kind of seemed like that was a rhythm thing because when they put the more power back in their Sayu Gaines, the poor guy, he wasn't having a great game. He would get tackled behind the line, he would fumble the ball, or he would just not get good production against that defensive line. So rhythm is actually a pretty good word to use. And that was the other interesting thing, because I don't know if you noticed this too, but we talked about, Boise State having three running backs.
Yeah.
surprisingly, there was only 2 that you ever saw during most of the
Yeah.
game. You know,
That's
they relegated Malik Sherrod only to just return duty, and he only got, I think, 2 touches the entire game. So that
yeah.
was kind of an interesting choice on why they kind of not necessarily excluded him from the offense, but just didn't bother to game plan for him at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, we had mentioned that, and I thought we would see a steady rotation of those 3 when we really just saw the 2. So that makes you wonder, like, dang, if they threw in that extra back, is that like another set of fresh legs on some big down and distances? Would that have helped them in the long run? It's easy to look back and say that now, but and the coaching staff knows their guys a lot better than me and you.
Yeah. So, and then so you guys had that fantastic tandem going on. Was that kind of expected going into the game that the tandem would break out for that many yards, or was it kind of more like, well, it didn't really see that coming? We know they were good, but we didn't know they were, like, good enough to completely carry an entire offense for 60 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of expected that. Sutton's going to come in and do what he does best. And I think he had over 100 yards. I don't know if that was one of the nights he went over 150, but yeah, that was kind of expected. Denaguy, I knew he was going to have not many completions or yards at all. He ended up with 2 rushing touchdowns, so that worked out for him nicely, from a production standpoint, or else it would have been, probably a pretty boring game to quarterback if you're just, 5 attempts or so for 17 yards by the end. But yeah, Sutton's done that, all year where he's just been this back that they could rely on, and it's been really nice, and they had that last year on Marquez Cooper. Um, Cooper had a little bit more speed and explosiveness. He was kinda like a Darren Sproles, like a small back, but, like, super fast and powerful. Almost like a Sproles and Michael Turner kind of combination where you have that, like, power of Michael Turner with the speed of Sproles. And then now you have Sutton, which is like, he's just this great power back, really patient, behind the line of scrimmage, waits for things to open up, and then he's able to just bulldoze his way through. So, yeah, that didn't surprise me at all with the running game and how it went for SDSU.
And then, we had mentioned when we previewed the game that Chris Johnson was, coming back, and he really seemed to make a big impact because he was in on almost every single tackle, taking down the Boise State running backs. But, with that said, going into the game also, did the defensive performance surprise you at all? Just being able to hold, Boise State to, so few rushing yards because they still did get a good amount and got
Mhm.
a touchdown out of it, but
Yeah.
this is a team that, can have, 3 running to have 2 running backs go for over 100 yards and 1 go for 50. Did that defensive performance kinda surprise you, or did Chris Johnson really make that big of a difference rallying the troops and just putting his head down and making all those tackles?
Yeah, it didn't really surprise me. I was surprised. I mean, I did think these battles with boys are always tough. So as far as like just like score wise, how the defense did it surprise me. I guess it shouldn't have because of how well they've done at home this season. Um, you know, they undefeated. They finish up the season undefeated at home and 2 shutouts. So that was good. But yeah, having Chris Johnson back definitely really helped them. Um, Even if he isn't like in there making big plays, the defense like really feeds off of each other, and that's something that I've heard like in interviews with the players throughout the season. They're just all like even if one has a great perform like a breakout performance or this or that, you ask them about it post game, and they just sort of like funnel it back to, oh yeah, we just like work together as a unit and really feed off of everyone's energy. Um, and Johnson he was talking a lot with the Boise players. There were some times where I thought there was going to be some little fights out there and stuff. So I think that the defense just really feeds off each other's energy, and then you see that on the field and how hard they're hitting guys or just kind of the plays that they're out there making. So I guess to answer your question of I was surprised, yes and no, kind of a combination of both.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I was surprised, and I kinda wasn't at the chippiness factor of it because these 2 teams are I don't wanna say they hate each other because it's not re but it's a very blossoming rivalry considering the tough battles they've had, and,
Mhm.
you remember the 2 years ago when Ashton Gentry just ran over them, and then you have the guys on the sideline when they make their picks just showboating to the crowd and talking trash, and they really you guys really gave it back to us this year because I was, we had a group of people right next to where we were sitting, and they were just constantly talking trash to every single Boise State player. And so it really felt like even though it was a smaller crowd than usual and everybody was miserable, they really were passionate about the game today. Like they really came to play and really wanted to beat Boise State.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they were ready, and then it helps not having Genty, running for whatever he runs for. But, yeah, it was a good game, good defensive. I mean, the defense does good, and then, as a testament, we see Rob Arch uh, just left for Nebraska, so that'll be interesting.
I was just gonna say, so what before we jump into that, I was just gonna say, so did you get that same feeling of like this kind of meant a lot more to SDSU from the press conferences and stuff coaches and players were saying after the game? Like what was the feeling after the game like?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. There was something that Lewis said, um 'cause somebody asked, like, a media member had asked him, like, "Oh, like, what does it mean to beat Boise?" And you can tell he's probably sick of hearing, like, "Oh, man," like, about wanting to beat Boise. Obviously, you wanna beat every team, but, after his how they did last season at 3-9, and, that was at Boise when Genty, his last game against SCSU, and he just ran all over him. So, you could definitely tell that he wanted to beat him because what they had asked him was about like, "Oh, like, what does it mean to beat this team?" And then he was kind of snapped back and he's like, "It doesn't matter who it is. If it's boys or whoever, he's like, we want to beat whoever lines up." But that isn't something that we've seen him like. That's not a normal reaction we've seen this season. So I think that he was just like, and I can't speak for him obviously, but this is kind of like the feeling I got. Like he was probably just like sick of hearing about Boise, and then they finally beat him, and he was just like ready to be like, okay, it's over. Like we beat him, and then you got to wait till next year. And then they'll be in the Pac-12 with us too. So it's going to be something, but we'll see how long Lewis sticks around for if he doesn't get poached. So, but yeah, I think that they were, and then the players, obviously, the players are a little bit more. The coaches will say more. The players, you can tell they're like coached for the media a little bit, so they don't give you as much. Like I remember asking um, who Owen Chambliss and one of the linemen, I think it was Ross, before the game. Who was it again? They were going. It was an away game, and maybe it was Fresno, but they were one win away from being bowl eligible, and how the press conferences will go on Mondays for the week coming up is the head coach coming first, and then after that you get the two student athletes. So I didn't have that question for the coach. Somebody else did, but they asked him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, da, da." I forget what he said. Lewis said something about becoming bowl eligible. So I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna ask the players because, um, seniors like that's an extra game for them. A lot of players around the country don't get that extra bowl game if they're not bowl eligible. So, um, Chambliss and them come up and I go, "Hey, what does it mean to, you're one win away from bowl eligibility? What does it mean to get if you're able to get that win and get earn that extra game for the seniors and this and that?" And right away they're both like, "Oh, we're not even thinking about that. We're just focusing on winning this week." And I was like, "Okay." It's kind of weird because I was like expecting a little bit something. I mean, obviously I get that like sure, like that's maybe what you say, but like in the locker room, I'm sure you probably want to win it. So that happens Monday, and then the game happens Saturday. As soon as the game's over, they win. They become bowl eligible. They pull out these boxes of shirts, bowl bound shirts that they're wearing, and I'm thinking, you guys, you knew you were, but it's just funny. Like that was a funny story because they're like, "Oh no!" Right away, they're like, "Nope, we're not even thinking about that. We're just like that. We're just trying to win another game." And then they like pulled out the bowl bound shirts, which is funny. But yeah, that's kind of how you see it with the players. They don't give away as much as the coaches do.
God, that's so funny that you mentioned that because I mean, we'll skip ahead all the way to current days now, but it's funny that you mentioned that story with what's going on with Notre Dame right now,
Yeah,
and them choosing to skip the bowl game because they didn't get into the playoffs, which I understand. But I mean, it's kind of like, you just said it. Like the players may not say anything and they're not going to give it away, but you could probably get the sense that they feel really robbed of a chance to be able to play,
yeah,
especially apparently since they were going to play against BYU and going to play in the Pop Tart Bowl.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some guys that were like, and I'm not very familiar with anyone on Notre Dame's roster. I just don't like outside of San Diego and Mountain West. But there's probably some players, sure, who are NFL bound and they were going to skip a bowl game anyways. But think about the players who like have grinded it out for 4 or 5 years, and this is their like they were possibly. I mean, being once you get that, like I don't know what it was like in that locker room or behind the scenes, but you're expecting to play in at least a bowl game, and then all of a sudden they find out that they played their last college game already, and it's sort of like I'm sure there were some players like that, those mid to low level players who are a little bit bummed. I would imagine. I mean, I think I would be if you're not going to go on to the next level, and you work all season, you win enough games to become bowl eligible, which a lot of other schools in the nation would have loved to do. And then they skip it. I don't know. Maybe not though. Maybe they kind of came together and voted on that um, as a team, which I'm sure there was something like that, and it wasn't just the head coach saying, "Hey, we're not going to play," or the athletic director. But yeah, that was interesting. College football playoffs and make things a lot of drama.
So we'll circle back to that when we get towards the thing, 'cause I wanted to ask you about your feelings about SDSU and the bowl game. But so we have that fantastic slugfest, 17-7 victory, and then pretty much, you and I spend the car ride back from the game just completely running through every single scenario that goes on. Pretty much the long and skinny of it is Boise State needed to win out, and San Diego State pretty much needed to win out too.
Yeah.
And then so we go into the next week against Colorado State. Pretty convincing victory. Max Cutforth finally is allowed to air it out and actually completes passes and completes touchdowns, and the offense looks back up and running again.
Hmm.
So cool. We go into the final week with some optimism. You guys ended up playing San Jose State.
Yep.
Business as usual for you guys. Just
Yeah.
completely
And
beat them.
yeah. Yeah. That one went good, and then the next week.
Yep. So heading into the final week, basically everybody was keeping their eyes on the tiebreaker. If Boise State wanted a chance to be in the championship, they had to win.
Mhm.
UNLV wanted to be in the championship, they had to win and have a loss here and there. So people were rooting for Utah State to beat Boise State. San Diego State had to take care of business and beat New Mexico. So pretty much you had New Mexico, San Diego State, UNLV, and Boise State all vying for conference. Going into the game, you had UNLV and SDSU as the top of the conference, with Boise State just a little bit behind.
Yeah.
So we go into Logan, Utah, and Boise State manages to pull out a victory despite some horrible, god awful refing, with taking away an interception, taking away a pick six, and freaking the I forgot his name. Was it Brendan Branson, or the
Mhm.
Utah State quarterback, just absolutely dominating the game. I think you had mentioned it to me earlier, and I'm like, God, that guy just yeah, he is like kind of a Tim Tebow who could actually throw a little bit because he just trucks guys all over.
Yeah, that was a scary game. I remember checking the score early, and I think Utah State was up, and I was like, "What the heck?" And I think I texted you, but you
Yeah,
guys finished.
we had a pick six taken off the board. Would have been
Mhm.
Jeremiah Irby's like third or fourth pick six in a row or something, and it got taken off for pass interference. That was not pass interference. But so basically, Cutforth manages to air it out. The stable of running backs has a great game, and
Mhm.
Boise State wins. So okay, they took care of business. They took care of business. So then we go over to New Mexico. We go over to New Mexico, where the looks. I swear, when I checked the highlights from that game, it looked like the Dolphins were playing, because I was like, wait a minute. I was like, oh, they're wearing the turquoise uniforms. I was so
Yeah,
confused. But
yeah,
then we hop over to a barn burner of a game over there, where SDSU and New Mexico are basically slugging it out for pretty much 4 quarters, and then they go into overtime.
yeah. In the overtime, man, that was like a roller coaster of emotions. I like college overtime better than NFL, by the way. But
Absolutely.
I think it was the first play, and you're thinking like, okay, and I'm following along on Twitter. A lot of Aztec fans are tweeting, they're like, just run it, like just give it to Sutton. Um, and I think it was the very first play action, throws it, tipped, and it gets picked. And I'm like, gosh dang. So then now all Utah State, and all New Mexico has to do is, kick a field goal, worst case, and it's over. And they put in this other quarterback. I didn't even catch who it was, but first play, he runs like 17 yards, gets like inside the 10. And then I'm thinking like, well, this is it. And then they do like a direct snap again. He runs it, it gets it to the 3. And then another, then I'm thinking, then it's like second, maybe it was third, maybe there's another run. And I remember the announcer saying like, well, maybe on third down here, you kick a field goal, um, and you give yourself a uh, opportunity if it's a bad snap or you fumble it or something, the fumble the snap. So, but they don't. They run it, and then Dwayne McDougal comes in and punches it out, fumbles it, and the Aztecs get it. And then I'm like, I went from like being like, oh, this is over to like some hope, and then you get excited. And then, so in college overtime, then they switch who gets the ball first, right? Because
I know
then,
exactly where you're going with this because when I saw the article and you texted me, I'm like, "No way," and I saw some of the clips online, I'm like, "No way, you've gotta be kidding me."
yeah. So then New Mexico gets the ball, goes down. I think it was like the first or second play. The long bomb pass down the sideline, touchdown. I'm like, shit. And then SDSU, well, yeah, I mean, you know all this, but I'm just reliving the
They're going into the student section.
get down, boom, boom, boom. They get to the 10. I'm like, okay, sweet. And like punch it in now. False start. Like first and goal, right? False start. And then you're like, God. And then false start. And then you're like, holy shit. I mean, not often. And I was explaining this to my girlfriend. I'm like, man, when you false start, then like I remember playing football, then you get in the huddle and people are like, don't nobody jump again. And then to do it again a second time. And then they go and line up and do it again a third time. And then I was like, now they're backed up where they started. And then I don't remember. Then I was like, I think they took a sack too on top of that, because why not? Might as well at that point. And then they just like threw it away. And then the last play, like you're watching, but you're like, he just throws it out. He threw it out of the back of the end zone. It wasn't even like that catchable. And then you're just like, holy cow.
Oh, he pulled a Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Then they go, oh, now it's got to go to computers. I was thinking, gosh, damn, I knew Boise already won. So I knew if we just won, it would have been us versus you. We would have been hanging out again at OG's Pizza, which apparently OG's Pizza, if you're a Boise State fan, the OG's Pizza in Mission Valley by IKEA and stuff is the Boise football pregame area. Because we walked in, there were so many Boise fans in there. There's
Yeah,
some,
that was so much fun.
but that was cool. So I was like thinking, I was pissed because I was like, man, that was, and then I was like, man, we're going to get to do that again. And then maybe they have a chance to win. I think Boise would have beat us looking at it now, how you guys played, um, especially with your QB back. But it would have at least been an extra game I would have got to go to this season. And then it would have, if they could have pulled it off, if SDSU could have um, pulled it off, then I would have gone to the LA Bowl. That would have been pretty cool to cover. But no, now I'm just getting ready for the Holiday Bowl. Be a good one.
So,
SMU in Arizona.
I mean, that's so bizarre because we see it all the time in the bigger college stadiums, like, when you look at the Penn State wideout game or the 12th
Yeah.
man in the Aggies and everything, like, and, famously, in the NFL, Seattle back in, like, the early 2000s got, like helped the Seahawks get, like, 12 procedure penalties against the Giants. But you
Yeah.
don't expect it to happen just heading into the daggum student section.
Yeah. In New Mexico. Gosh, I guess there ain't much to do in New Mexico, so all the students go out and they wanna just scream and get loud and everything. But then they
But
got
go
kinda weird. I don't know, I didn't look at they were like, it was already confusing before all the scenarios that coulda happened, like we were talking about. Then after that loss, in New Mexico put out a statement. They were pretty pissed that they went in the conference thing. I don't know, after the Aztecs loss, I didn't even really look at much more because I was like, there's no point in like breaking anything down, or like, I don't care if whoever's in it's in it. It's not us. Yeah.
Going into the game, was there a sense of nervousness? Because you basically had 2 teams who had gone undefeated at home, who were gonna face each other.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, because you never know. I mean, these conference opponents, it's like NFL division games. They know each other pretty well because they play every year. I mean, there's like there's a few you don't play each year that'll rotate, but yeah, and then obviously you just think like, man, don't screw it up. New Mexico's not a horrible team, so I wasn't like shocked. The one play that kind of haunts me is like there was like a 4th and 1 at the 50, like just inside SDSU territory. Maybe it was like the 49, 48, and they went for it, and they like I don't know if they pitched it to the back or they ran a stretch to the right, and the dude took it all the way for a touchdown. SDSU let him run it all the way for a touchdown, and I was thinking like, man, if you just stop that earlier or you don't let them score, uh, it's a different game. But it's all. it's all what ifs at this point, and it's over. So they're getting ready for they're going back to New Mexico for the New Mexico Bowl. So that'll be interesting.
So what would you say would be the what would you say was kind of the thing that let the game slip away from them? Like, did they just get away from the run? Did they try to get too cute with the pass? And then on the flip side of that, like, what was it that New Mexico was able to take advantage of defensive wise?
Yeah, I think New Mexico did a good job shutting down the pass. We should have ran it a little bit more. But I don't know. Maybe they thought that New Mexico would have expected us to run it more, so they were trying to catch them off guard. And then defensively, they just did a good job getting after Denical and not letting him be comfortable back there when they did want to pass. They're a good team. They have uh, some good D linemen. Their front was pretty good. They have some guys in the secondary, obviously, who can make some big plays. So I think that just like collectively as a unit on defense, New Mexico played really well together. And just you know they were the better team that day.
So so now something that both of our teams share is now there's a lot of rumblings on quarterback because a lot of people once Max was able to air it out, it's like, oh, he looks better, he's got better timing, he's got more accuracy.
Yeah,
And then on the flip side for you guys, it kind of seems like I mean, I even heard fans in the stands when I was at the SDSU games like, "What? You're letting him throw the he's throw the ball, or you're letting him throw the ball, just run the ball." So, it seems like both of our teams are gonna head into next year with with some quarterback competition. What
yeah.
do you feel in the sense of what do you guys have behind, your starting quarterback? Is there something there that maybe there's some untapped potential there?
I don't know. There's one young guy that we have, but I think that you're going to see them go to the portal again to see if they can get somebody who can compete. Um, because I mean, obviously, competition's the best thing that if you bring somebody else in, especially with the portal and how things are now, to compete with Denegal and just see what comes out. And but the thing with Sutton and how you're saying fans like, just run it, just run it. It was like a combination of like Denigal not being like the best quarterback and having the best arm. His deep ball was good. His like intermediate routes were kind of lacking, but the Sutton, he's born and raised in San Diego, played for Cathedral. So there's a lot of people who like him already. I don't know if that would have been the same if it was just some out of town player. Um, but a lot of people in San Diego like Sutton. He's kind of like a fan favorite. He stuck it out for years. Not getting many touches at all, and then had his breakout year this year. So everybody kind of liked him in that sense, and that's sort of why they were. And he was good too, like not to take anything away from that, but that's also why the San Diego fans were just like, run it, run it, run it, and they just didn't want to pass it much. So, but yeah, we'll see. I think they'll go to the portal. They got I forget his name, but they got a guy who decommitted from New Mexico quarterback to SDSU. So that'll be interesting. I haven't looked too much into him. I got to look up more about him and kind of see what I think and where I think he can maybe end up if he could win the starting job, or but it depends on who they bring in the portal and if they do. So it'll be interesting off season to see what moves they make.
So with a full year under his belt, do you think Denical goes in as well, I mean, obviously you just mentioned, we'll have to see about competition, but do you think he just goes in as the uncontested starter, or do you think the seat is pretty warm towards like, maybe if you have a guy just show him like maybe a little bit more potential and accuracy that he could be pulled next season?
Yeah, I think he'll go in like obviously taking the first team reps, but like how Lewis has been these past 2 years, there's always been a quarterback that like it was like Danny O'Neil, you kind of figured he was going to be the starter that year because he had committed to Colorado and Lewis when he was there, and then decommitted and came over here. So you kind of knew. And then with Denegal, you kind of knew also because you're like, okay, this guy, like you're looking at the other quarterbacks, you kind of know that Denegal's the main one. So but Lewis likes to be like real secretive about it. Like, oh, it's a competition. He won't name a starter till about a week or two before the season starts. That's how it has been both years. So, and he kind of lets the guys like there will be one who like I'm sure there'll be a guy who's like third, fourth. He ain't getting like first team reps, but the other two, like the top two, he'll kind of mix them in and kind of see. Um, but he's pretty like tight-lipped about it. Like he's not going to give us anything until probably like at the earliest, probably like 3 weeks before the first game, I would imagine.
Hmm. Okay. So that madness happens, and basically we have to go to computers, basically taking all these aggregates from different websites and rankings and everything else and strength of schedule and blah, 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 blah. And basically, from the outset, it looked like New Mexico was not gonna make it. So you're just down to 3 now, UNLV, San Diego, and Boise. As we mentioned, it was kind of expected that San Diego and Boise would be the 2, but they ended up picking UNLV for whatever reason. Boise State made sense to me only because the strength of schedule facing top teams in like Notre Dame and UCF. So
Oh,
that kind of made sense to me. I would have liked to. I mean, I'm fine with what's happening, but I would have liked to see UNLV and San Diego State because they were basically the only 2 teams who didn't play each other. So that would have been a fun game, I think.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But the chips fell where they did. So then Boise State, UNLV for the 3rd year in a row. Once again, we take care of business. So though I will say I was very nervous in that second quarter. Um, I'm at an event, I'm looking at my phone like 21-7, let's go.
Yeah, it was
And
looked good in the beginning. Yeah.
then I'm looking like, oh God, it's 28-21. Oh God, oh God. And then we just end up finishing it at the end. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We'll get there.
Yeah.
And then it should have been known because when I saw after the game, the pictures that came out is that you had Coach Danielson, the coach who takes any possible second he can to always, uh, talk about religion and praise Jesus and everything like that. And you see him before the game, completely shirtless, wearing a shiesty, holding one of the hammers and just dapping up every single player that comes into the locker room.
That's funny. Wow. Yeah, I didn't
And
see that.
and apparently he's tatted up too. He's got a rib tattoo and a tattoo right here over his shoulder. Yeah, it was hilarious to see.
That's funny. Wow, that probably got his players hyped up.
Oh, you saw so many Boise State players just going, "Coach is in a shiesty, Boise State by 20 points."
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. They started out the first half like that, but I was glad that they won. As an Aztec fan, like I'm sure there's some Aztec fans who don't want to hear that, but I mean, shoot, if you wanted to be there, they needed to win, and they didn't. So
And the main story going into that week was basically who was gonna play quarterback, and it ended up being Matson, who ended up having a vintage performance, 3 touchdowns, uh, only maybe like 4 or 5 incompletions or something like that, and a rushing touchdown. So that kind of justified, then that quieted a lot of people about being
Mhm.
like, well, this is why he's the unquestioned leader, and this is why the team ride or dies with him because clearly he's the head guy. He may
Yeah.
not always have amazing performances, and he's got his weaknesses for sure, but
Mhm.
that's why he's been the uncontested starter for the past season.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely proved it. Went out there, won a Mountain West Conference championship again, and so I'm sure. I mean, you guys have how many quarterbacks do you have next year?
So that's the thing, and that's so funny you were talking about that because Um, some background information was after the SDSU game, there was a lot of discourse on, Twitter and everything like that. Like, oh, we have Cutforth going in there and he's just a walk on. We can't get any good recruits because they're all getting poached by different teams and this, that, and the other thing. And I, not to put him on blast because I love the guy and respect the guy, but it was interesting to see former Boise State quarterback Jalen Henderson he was the one who led us to a championship game back in, like, 2022 or something like that. Um, but he's active on Twitter, and he was kind of engaging with fans, and somebody had asked him, like, like, "Well, what do you like?" Kinda trashing, Cutforth and everything, and he was basically like, "Look, I've trained with both Max and the guy behind him, who's a true freshman, Zeke Martinez."
Mhm.
Um And he's like, "Look, I've trained with both of them. Max is a good kid, but keep an eye out on Zeke because this is gonna be the guy who's gonna take Boise State to the next level."
That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So apparently, I think I believe he thinks that because Zeke is kind of similar to Jalen in that they both kind of have a good athletic running ability and can hit the deep ball pretty well.
Hmm.
But that was just interesting to see. So going into camp next year, spring game, basically, it's probably going to be a three-way competition. Though I would expect Matson would still stay the starter, and then you have either Max or Zeke battling for the second spot, and
Mhm.
then you kind of go into next year more comfortable, being like, well, if we need to make a change for whatever reason, or if we have another injury come again, then at least we'll be in more capable hands with guys who know the offense better and a more dynamic athlete. Although, the other thing to be said about all that in relation to quarterbacks is, that immediate 180-degree change that came with the Colorado State game. And nothing has been confirmed yet, and I doubt it ever will be, but there was a lot of, I don't wanna say controversy, but there was a lot of conspiracy that the reason why that immediate shift happened was because silently the offensive coordinator duties had been changed from Nate Potter to the quarterback coach, Zach Hill.
Dang, that's interesting. Huh.
And that was also kinda something that I could sense from Jalen as well when somebody had asked him about that, and he's like, "Zach Hill was the main reason why I was able to have so much success at Boise State." So,
Mhm.
I would definitely, recommend him, or he was just singing his praises. So,
Yeah.
if there is a coordinator change that comes next season, or if that is the case on what's going on, then at least we know we're in capable hands. Credit to Potter, he's a legend. He was a tackle. He made it to the NFL and everything, but he came up as a tight ends coach. And I don't understand how you have a tight ends coach who doesn't utilize the tight ends, especially in a rain game, you know,
Yeah.
when you just have them sneak out in the flat and you just have Cutforth hit them and they can break their tackles and do anything. Because we've seen it between Matt Wagner and Matt Lauder have
Mhm.
both amazing catches, hurdling guys, making one-handed catches. We saw it against Utah State, we saw it against UNLV. So I think he was just promoted way too soon. But, if there was an internal change and they just let him open up the offense more, they did make a silent change to Hill. Either way, the offense is finally starting to hum again. And now we can go into it confident that we're not going to have a repeat of what happened in San Diego. It's where if
Yeah.
Cutforth has to come in, he's able to sling the ball, hit his timing, hit his deep passes. The only issue that I see going into, this bowl game is the wide receivers because everybody has the drop Cs apparently, except for Chase Pennery, who apparently just is amazing now for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see next year. Look look out for.
So Boise State wins the Mountain West Championship, and the winner automatically gets a bid to the LA Bowl. So
Mhm.
we're facing the Washington Huskies. SDSU has a great season, didn't end up making the championship, but they did place third, I believe. So they get a great matchup against North Texas in the New Mexico Bowl,
Yeah.
which is honestly a fantastic game because, North Texas was just basically one game away from making it into the playoff over Tulane.
Yeah. Yeah, they high scoring team. It'll be a good one to see that offense against our defense.
And then so th and then, and then, I didn't quite check who UNLV was playing, but I think New Mexico is playing.
Yeah, let's see.
It's a good question. But, so that's pretty much the matchups for the bowl series that matter, and then, so with the, New Mexico Bowl going on, you have, 2 top-tier teams in the group of 5, but
Mhm.
as you had mentioned earlier, your defensive coordinator has left to go be the head coach at Nebraska. Is there any trepidation going into that game with against a hot offense in North Texas?
I know. Yeah, we'll see. Apparently, we're waiting. I haven't checked Twitter yet. No, man, excuse me, but we're waiting to see if he's still going to coach in that. UNLV plays in the Frisco Bowl, by the way, but I
Ooh.
haven't seen anything. They play Ohio University, but I haven't seen anything as far as if he's going to. RH will still be coaching in that. It's weird how that stuff kind of works out. Like Lane Kiffin wanted to keep coaching Ole Miss, and and it's like it's kind of hard to do that. You know, I mean,
If he really wanted to, he coulda got it done.
yeah. Or I mean, yeah, I don't know all that stuff, but it sucks. The RH losing him. We'll see. I think the defense might take a step back next year without him. Um, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, some good players don't end up leaving and following him to Nebraska, which you kind of see that when coaches or coordinators leave and go other places. So that'll be interesting to see. But the defense, I think this bowl game will be their biggest test of the year to see how good that they can do against an offense like this.
So going into next season, is there any kind of, because I was seeing a little bit like, I'm scrolling through, X and Twitter also, just kinda
Mm.
getting caught up on Mountain West stuff, and, I was kinda seeing a little bit of trepidation with Sean Lewis now losing, such a hotshot defensive coordinator. There was
Mhm.
kinda the sentiment that the defense carried the team this season. Do you kind of feel that's a correct statement and the team's gonna regress next season, or do you think Lewis has enough touch to where he can kinda make up for that? Because it kinda seemed like the strength of the team was the defense and the offense just plodded along behind it.
I think we'll see a little bit of a decline for the team overall, just because I mean that defense held teams to very few points, shut teams out. The offense, they were able to score quite a few points in games where I think next year, if all is the same, except the defense takes a step back, I think the offense could still outpace some teams and outscore them. But I think that there's a few games, like some of those close games, that if the defense takes a step back, that then they'll start to, you know, falter on. Where instead of seeing a 9-3, maybe it's a 7-5 or, you know, 6-6 season because some of those close games, the defense isn't really there to bail them out. And Chris Johnson's gone. Um, Hopefully Trey White. I think people were talking about him going to Nebraska. People were talking about him declaring for the draft. So we'll kind of see what he decides to do too. But those are two big guys right there. And then Bryce Phillips is going to be gone too. He was only back last year because of the junior college eligibility change that they made. So yeah, I think that we'll see a little bit of regression in the defense. Offense, we'll have to see. It depends on quarterback. But I think it's hard to look at what's happening, who's leaving, and think that they're gonna be, like, better next year. I mean, it's harder to be much better than 9-3 or whatever they finish with, you know what I mean? 9 wins, so which was the exact opposite of last year. Um, but I don't know. We'll see, time will tell. National Signing Day's over, so I'll start looking at those guys that they signed, and then, um, we'll see over the next few months who they end up getting in the portal, and then you'll get a little bit better of an idea of what the roster is going to look like next year.
And then, heading into the game, do you get the sense that it's gonna be a full team heading into the bowl game, or do you feel that there might be a couple guys who might choose to opt out of the game?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see here. Like I wouldn't be shocked if some of these guys like Johnson or White, if they're going to declare for the draft if they don't play in it. Because it's hard from my perspective because I just see sort of like them in interviews and they're going to be as professional as they can be and not go one way or another. So it's kind of hard to base their like what their intentions would be with that. But that will be interesting to see uh, if players end up deciding to play or if they want to hold out and not get hurt.
And then, so one more thing I wanted to ask you about as we, kind of approach the start of the bowl season and everything is that there was a report recently that came out that the AD for San Diego State was trying to, drum up more money, support, and interest for the athletic department overall and,
Yeah.
raising student prices and all this type of stuff. What do you
Um,
get how you what are you getting the sense is the roadblock that's kind of stopping San Diego State athletics or football, either one at large, from kind of blossoming more than it already is? Because I mean, you can't ask for anything more than a top tier team and a great offense and a hard hitting defense, but it
yeah.
doesn't seem like there's a lot of attention or whatever you want to call it paid to the team. So with that being said and that kind of being thrown out in the ether, like what is your opinion on why you think these changes are gonna start happening?
Yeah, I think like consistent winning is what's going to obviously help. Um, we see like you can't have this where you go like 3-9 one year, 9-3 the next. You, like you have to be more consistent. Your down years can't be as down as they have been. Um, And then if you do, if you put together some winning seasons, you see that there's some people who will want to pitch in some money. There's some donors or some alumni. I've seen it with the basketball team. They've put together very a lot of winning seasons, and and they're able to get the funding and the money that they need. So you can't like there's no excuse in saying like, oh, like San Diego's a smaller market or like, there's not the alumni base because there is obviously because they support the basketball team and they win. So I think, yeah, Wicker's just trying to drum up some more money for them. I think the transition into like to Snapdragon hasn't been what they expected it to be as far as like the financial side of it and getting fans in there. So I think they just need to just win more seasons like this, bowl games, um, conference championships. Hopefully, they fell short of this one, but I think that that's what it's going to take. And then if they can string together a few good seasons, then that can help. But the only problem is I'm worried that Lewis isn't going to be around much longer. it's That's kind of how it is with head coaches. I think that San Diego got itself a little bit more time by not getting to the conference championship, even though that sucks. You obviously want to win it, but I wonder how much more teams would have tried to get Lewis if he went and won a conference championship too.
Do you think that another possibility on why there's this sudden urgency or idea to drum up more funds is with the pending upcoming transition to the Pac-12 next year? And then do you think the Pac being having the name recognition of the Pac-12, even though it's a shell of what it once was, and this is gonna be a new iteration, do you think
Yeah.
that kind of brand name is gonna help the athletic program at all?
I would imagine it would. I mean, I don't see why it couldn't. You know what I mean? A better conference. This is something that people in San Diego were talking about a couple years ago when SDSU like gave Mountain West their intention because they thought they were going to get an invite to the Pac-12, but they didn't yet. But yeah, I think, and I've heard, and Lewis has talked about it before that it's a nice recruiting tool, to be able to say, hey, brand new stadium, or well, a few years old, brand new is considering other stadiums, and then a chance to play in the Pac-12 against some good competition. Like you said, that isn't what it used to be, but you would imagine that that would give a boost in funding and just overall interest. Maybe season ticket sales will uh, will go up a little bit, but only time will tell.
Absolutely, and at least there's better bowl game matchups to be had with the Pac-12. I mean, we're still gonna be in the LA Bowl because it's a Mountain West Pac-12, but,
Mhm.
your conference champion in the Pac-12 isn't gonna end up playing in the LA Bowl. They're gonna play in
Yeah,
somewhere
much.
better.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure where, but somewhere better.
yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think, it's ACC and for the Holiday Bowl, it's not is it Pac-12?
Uh,
Or
the
it's
Holiday
SMU
Bowl is it was SMU
SMU and Arizona. So it is Pac-12, yeah.
Pac-12, yeah.
Yeah, it's ACC and Pac-12. So that'd be kinda cool.
I
SDSU.
think I believe if I had to take a guess, I think probably the big Pac-12 bowl game is gonna be the Las Vegas Bowl,
Yeah,
'cause I
yeah,
think I think it's Nebraska playing, Utah for this upcoming bowl game. So I think the Las Vegas Bowl is gonna overtake the LA Bowl as, like, the main automatic tie-in for a Pac-12 winner.
okay. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But so there's a chance Boise could and SDSU could play in San Diego in the Holiday Bowl, though. If they don't
That would be
win at
awesome.
all. Yeah, yeah, that'd be interesting. But it's
That
gonna be
and you guys could get a grudge match against, New Mexico because 'cause they're staying in the Mountain West.
yeah, yeah, that's true. If they end up winning it one of these years, and you see a label. Yeah, that's true. We'd probably wanna crush them.
God, I cannot wait for it's just so interesting to see these new rivalries that are blossoming, and even though we're leaving the conference, it's
Yeah,
still nice to see that there's gonna be these out-of-state stuff still going on. Because I mean,
yeah,
even though we might not play all that often anymore with the Mountain West, the Mountain West games are still gonna hold a lot of significance when we do end up playing them.
yeah, 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 definitely. It'll be, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be cool to still face you guys every once in a while too.
Yeah,
Get some
that's gonna be awesome. I'm glad this blossoming rivalry is still gonna stay intact when we move to the Pac-12 next year.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'll be cool.
So, uh, we going into the LA Bowl, Boise State, Washington. Any thoughts on that game at all? Who do you think's gonna take that one out in the Chris Peterson Bowl?
Probably I haven't looked up much about Washington. Um, how have they been this year?
I think from what I've been hearing, they've been decently. They finished 5th in the Big 12, but I mean,
Okay.
it's the Big 12. I mean, when you have heavy hitters like BYU and Texas Tech and all this type of stuff, like, of course you're
Yeah.
going to manage to finish 5th. I think honestly, history is just the biggest factor going into the game because there's a lot of trepidation. Um, Basically, Washington has had our number the past few years because
Mhm.
there was that opening day college game day kickoff game where Michael Penix just absolutely slaughtered us. And then a few years before that, it was the Chris Peterson revenge game in the Las Vegas Bowl where they ended up slaughtering us there too. And I think the record is we are 2-5 all time against Washington and 2-5 all time against Washington State.
Okay. I'll take you
So
guys. Maybe you guys are ready to get your revenge. Right? That might I'm gonna plug in my laptop here. But yeah, maybe it's your guys' time to kind of get it back.
I'm hoping it's revenge. It's going to be redemption for 2 years ago against UCLA. It's going to be a redemption for that absolute beatdown that there's still guys on the team who suffered that loss in Washington.
Yeah.
So they're gonna
Yeah.
be pumped and ready to go. So and
Yeah.
it's finally redeeming, uh, the loss to the last bowl game we played them in, which was, I mean, I was there in attendance for that game. I was bummed and I was sad, but I think a lot of people were happy just to see Coach P one last time. So,
Yeah.
hopefully, I mean, it's basically the Chris Peterson Bowl, so hopefully he makes a stop by.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be real neat. At SoFi. You gonna be at SoFi tonight?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not heading to that one tonight.
Be a tough game for them. It'll be interesting to see.
There's so much speculation on that game going on because of the hand injury, and then Marion Hampton possibly being a game time decision. So it's like, okay, is Kamani going to get a bulk of the touches? Are they going to do a split backfield with Marion? They're going to run exclusively out of the shotgun. How is that going to work?
Yeah.
But we do have Jalen Carter out, which is a big plus.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. It's coming down to the wire. I was looking at the playoff picture today. Indy, I think that sucks for them, the Daniel Jones injury. So yeah, I think that sort of locks in almost what the playoff picture looks like right now. It'd be hard. I don't know if any of these teams, like the Chiefs are out, but I mean, all the other teams are like 2, 3 games behind. What's going to end up being a huge game could be is the Texans game.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely huge.
Because right now, like the Colts have the head-to-head against the Chargers, and they're 8-5. So I don't know how that will go. Like if the Chargers they're 8-4, and if the Chargers lose tonight and they go to 8-5, will Indy bump them out, and the Indy will be in the wild card, and San Diego will be out, or LA will be out
Yeah, because they would hold the tiebreaker, so they would be in.
for now. But then India, I find it hard that they win many more games this season.
Ooh, baby, the possibility of a Riley Leonard or AR
Yeah,
playoff
what
game. Oh
what
my god.
Anthony Richardson, that guy. 'Cause I see Daniel Jones is out, and then, my dad's like, "Oh, is Anthony Richardson in?" I'm like, "Who the hell is Riley Leonard?" Like, yeah, no,
He
he's in.
he was the, quarterback for, Notre Dame last year, and he was before that, he was, a Wake Forest product.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's pretty decent in his year at, oh, no, I'm sorry, not Wake Forest, Duke. He was originally at
Oh,
Duke.
okay. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, but anyway, back to the bowl game before I take us way off topic. But yeah, I think Boise will beat them then. It'll be a good game either way, so that'll be cool. Would you
It'll
go
be
to it?
Oh, yeah, I'm going. Me and Conrad are definitely going.
Nice, nice. That'll be sick.
End zone seats, baby, let's go.
Yeah, that's nice. Is that the one that Gronk was at one year in Colorado? Saw Gronk, yeah.
Yep, he is basically the spot he's basically the host of the entire game. He's been the
Oh, is he
host.
still? Okay.
Yeah, he's been the host for, like, the past couple years now. It's just that the sponsorship has changed.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's cool. I remember at last year's Holiday Bowl with Syracuse and Washington, and yeah, right outside the press box when I come out are all the like booths or boxes, whatever you want to call them. And I bumped into Donovan McNabb because he went to Syracuse. He was a that was a funny. That's funny who you always see. And then last year they had that what's his name? The hot dog eating guy who was like their
Joey
spokes.
Chestnut?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like their spokesperson for the game, so I got to meet him and stuff. So that was kind of funny. So I don't know what it's gonna be like this year because they always change it. They always change like who comes out for it, but yeah.
Low key, I'm kind of upset that Georgia Tech didn't make it. I was hoping Georgia Tech would make it to the Holiday Bowl because I was gonna send you a picture and like get Haynes King to sign this because that guy's
Oh yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I saw it, like, I was keeping track of who it could have been. At one point, my brother goes to University of Virginia, and there was a chance it could have been them, but then they fell to Duke in the ACC championship. Even if they won, they wouldn't have got into this bowl game because this isn't, like, we don't get the top-tier ACC team, but should be a good game either way. I haven't seen, obviously, either of these teams play, so it'll be interesting to see, and the stadium's always nice.
Shout out Cavaliers, baby, and the college of former Chargers legend, sixth round pick Joe Reed.
Oh, shoot, he went there, huh? Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, when my brother first, um, went there, we were thinking, like, what alumni are from there? And, like, Chris Long, he went there. Tiki and Rondé, or one at least one of them. Um, and, who else was it? There's a few Matt Schaub. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Schaub went to Virginia. That's right.
There was another running back, I forget, but it was funny. It was interesting thinking. I mean, SDSU doesn't have many. There's Falk, and, he's not a nice person, and that's about it. That's, like, their superstar. I like Penny and Pumphrey, but they just didn't get enough playing time in the NFL to do anything that crazy.
Yep. All right. And with that being said, and I think we'll just about wrap this up. So thank you for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. And here's to another great season of college football as we start heading into the holidays and as we start heading into all the playoff games. So this has been Vince Rodriguez signing out with my co host, Johnny here. See ya.
Appreciate it.